Hey, what's up people, Piz out here, and today I've got another review request video for you guys. This one courtesy of Mike G Pro, who many of you on YouTube probably know better as Silent Mike. But Mike requested that I talk about a movie that I've admired for many years, going all the way back to the first time I saw it on VHS, seemingly eons ago. And that movie is Clive Barker's Lord of Illusions. And I've always admired the movie really for a multitude of different reasons. At its core, Lord of Illusions is a noirish kind of detective story with a New York City private detective named Harry D'Amour, played by Scott Bakula, who was hired to go out to Los Angeles to investigate a seemingly banal insurance fraud case. And while there, he is drawn into the world of magic and illusion. And the two are very dissimilar things according to the movie. Illusion is trickery, it's sleight of hand, it's fake. Magic is done for real. There, D'Amour is introduced to Philip Swan, who is a world-renowned illusionist. Think David Blaine, David Copperfield. The only thing is, it's not illusion. It's real. It's magic. And this is courtesy of a fellow by the name of Nix, who was a cult leader out in the desert who his followers believed would one day rise up and cleanse the world. Well, Philip Swan, played by Kevin J. O'Connor, who was a follower of his, believed that Nix had gone too far when he kidnapped a young girl and he's going to sacrifice her or involve her in some sort of ritual. And he goes out to the desert with a couple of other people to stop Nix, and in the process Nix gives him some of his magic. And Swan is tormented by the thought of Nix returning someday and getting revenge on him for betraying him, and so on and so forth. And that sounds like kind of a convoluted storyline, and in a sense it is a little bit. There's some elements of it that just kind of, not that they don't make sense, they just sort of, you know, make you go, But anyway, overall, it's a fantastic movie. I've always really enjoyed it because of the fact that there is such a dense storyline involved there. Like I said, you have the very noirish kind of detective story. In the movie, a lot of the characters and the feel of the movie and the music in the movie harkens back to those kind of noirish detective stories from the past, which is very cool. However, you have a very contemporary Clive Barker horror movie mixed in there too, with a lot of, you know, usual Clive Barker stuff of, you know, fetishistic sex and violence and stuff like that. A lot of really striking images in this film. There's a lot of very like I said, striking images in this film. There's a lot of special effects in the film. Most of it hasn't really aged that well, but there were a few sequences where, and I watched the movie just the other day in its entirety for the first time in a little while. I was really taken aback by some of the effects in the movie and the visuals in the film. Harry D'Amour has they talk about his past a little bit, as far as, you know, he's been drawn into occult type situations in the past. The most recent one being involving a young boy who was possessed. There's some really cool flashbacks to that. Just give you a little bit of it, not a whole lot, which is great. The characters are all very deep characters. There's a lot for them to kind of sink their teeth into. Every character, there's a lot of flesh on the bone, which is interesting. The casting of Scott Bakula in the lead, I definitely have to give Clive Barker props for going out on that limb, because I mean, you definitely wouldn't think of Clive Barker movie put Scott Bakula in it, but he gives a fantastic performance. Punky Jansen, another fantastic performance. Kevin J. O'Connor as Swan, great. The actor who played Nix, and his name escapes me for the moment. I apologize, but he has a great moment at the very end of the movie where Punky Jansen's character asks him, you know, "What are you?" And he takes a moment and pauses and seems to reflect, and he says, "I'm a man who wanted to be a god, but then had second thoughts, and now, you know, he just wants to murder the world." I thought that was very, you know, that was very, you know, I felt a depth to that, as far as, you know, he led this cult, and he wanted to be this all-powerful god, and then he sort of got a taste of it and he didn't like it. Now he just wants to destroy everything. I thought that was very, very cool. There's like a montage sequence where the cultists, the Nix cultists, they've all moved on years and years later, and they've got their own different lives here and there across the country. But once Nix, word of his return spreads, the cultists drop whatever they're doing, and including their families, their husbands, their wives, their children, in very bloody fashion, to leave that life behind and go back to Nix. And there's a lot of really cool sequences that happen after that with the cult members. One in particular where Nix asks them to, "Will you suffer to come unto me?" And they all agree that they will. So I think you can understand, you know, Clive Barker's sense of suffering is different than most. So there's a lot of very interesting stuff going on there. I've really enjoyed this movie, like I said, from the first time I saw it. I really thought that it wasn't your typical sort of genre movie. The blending of genres, the depth of the characters, the visuals. It's a very, very powerful, strong film, I think, as far as I'm concerned. And it's one that when you think of Clive Barker, it doesn't really jump to mind. I mean, it's only one of, you know, 3 films that he directed: Hellraiser, Nightbreed, and then Lord of Illusions. So, but it's not really the one that jumps out there to you. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more character development for Harry D'Amour's character, for Scott Bakula's character. And interestingly enough, on the DVD, there's a couple of deleted scenes where he talks briefly about his ex-wife, which I thought were really nice, but according to the commentary, Barker cut them out because he kind of felt like they interrupted the flow of the movie. And I can understand that. I would have liked to have had those in there just for a little bit more depth on his character. The relationship between Swan and Famke Janssen's character Dorothea is kind of weird to think about, because it's Dorothea at the beginning of the film, who's a little girl, that Kevin J. O'Connor's character goes in and saves from Nix years later. Now they're married. That I thought was a little creepy in a sense. And throughout the film, Famke's character says, you know, I didn't marry him for love. I didn't marry him for love. But, you know, can't blame him. I mean, it's Famke Jansen, for God's sake. So, but yeah, that was kind of a little creepy. But overall, I've always really enjoyed the movie, and I think it's unfortunately one of those movies that kind of flies under the radar, that people don't talk about very much, and that's why I really jumped at the opportunity to want to talk about the film, because I really like it so much. And sitting down with it again the other day and watching the director's cut of it, yeah, I mean, it, as I said, very striking visuals, very powerful stuff. Really enjoyed it. The bottom line is, I really enjoy the movie, and I highly recommend it to anybody out there who hasn't seen it. It's definitely worth checking out. You can buy the director's cut on DVD. I don't know if it's on Blu-ray or not, but you can buy the director's cut on DVD for relatively cheap. So I would definitely urge anybody to go out there and check that out. So yeah, until next time, you guys take it easy, and peace.